No trades for the Buccaneers, so we got a double dose of the crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen the rest of the season. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at EKlosky We are your credential members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, you can find everything that Evan is doing on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. And you can find me here 5 days a week along with the everydayers. For that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. You'll also get things like me confusing myself and saying that Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was traded to Cleveland instead of from Cleveland, because that's the kind of day that I had. But make sure that you become a Locked On Bucs insider. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, we are going to talk about the Bucs and Patriots, and of course, Evan has his predictions. That is all coming up in a little bit. But we're going to start. There were a couple of major trades in the NFL at the deadline. Nothing for the Bucs. That should come as no surprise. We talked about it last week. I've talked about it on a couple of shows since. We talked about it on the Bucs Squad show. Yet Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams traded away from the Jets. So everyone light a candle and say a prayer for Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson as they are stuck in purgatory out there. But since there were no trades for
Quinnen Williams just moved from a bad situation to a bad situation. So, light one for him as well.
So did I'm forgetting his name now, the dude from the Bengals, Logan
Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, but he wasn't playing in Cincinnati, so at least now he's going to play.
Yeah, I think at this point I'd rather just sit on the sideline, not worry about getting hurt, and just collect my paycheck before I can sign somewhere in free agency. But
spoken like a non-athlete.
No, I've spoken as someone who knows that neither of those teams is going anywhere, and why put my future at risk for a half.
He's got to put something on tape for someone to actually pay for his services the following year.
I mean, I don't know. Some of these prove-it deals in Tampa have worked out pretty well. You play for a little bit, you can get a lot, because you're not going to put anything good on tape with the Dallas Cowboys defense. But, Evan, I am curious to hear what you think of the rest of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we are going to pull out the crystal ball a little early. The crystal ball is getting double duty in this one, and we are going to get your three biggest and boldest predictions for the rest of the year for these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's start with your first one. What is your first prediction for these final 9 games for the Bucs?
Despite doing very little the past couple of weeks, a bye week is thrown in there. Hopefully he's a bit healthier. I don't think he's far off the number. The schedule opens up a little bit to be more optimistic. So why not? Emeka Egbuka, top 5 wide receiver at the end of the year based on receiving yards.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's pretty close to the one that I mentioned on yesterday's show. And then I also threw in, give him the 13 touchdowns. That would break Mike Evans' rookie record with the Buccaneers. It would also put him in a tie for the second most touchdowns by a rookie in NFL history. Would tie him with Jamar Chase and then a couple of guys that nobody has ever heard of because it was back in the 50s. Randy Moss, of course, has the record at 17 set back in 1998.
Don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know.
At 17? 17. One a game. He's got to average one a game.
Look, all I'm saying.
More than one a game.
All I'm saying is that the Bucs have the Patriots this weekend, and Drake London just got a hat trick against Christian Gonzalez, and he may not even play. It just takes a couple of big games, and he could be right there. He could be right there.
Okay.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's not 0%. I will give you that.
And we were just talking before the show started. We are here for the gambling aspect of this. I'd gamble. I'd put $5 on Emeka Egbuka tying Randy Moss's record, because why not?
I have $5 on a 70-yard field goal this year, and I almost got it with Cam Little. Yeah.
He'll get it at some point. He will. You're gonna make some money off of that one. All right.
I would love for that to happen.
I love the Egbuka pick right out of the gate. What's our next big bold prediction for the Buccaneers in the second half of the season?
It's twofold. I think that the Bucs are going to be top 3 at the end of the season in sacks. But what makes it bold is that there will be no one on this team with double-digit sacks to their name.
Well, that completely negates my Yaya Diaby prediction. So
That's right.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. If they're top 3 in sacks, this defense is doing something right. And if they can accomplish that, honestly, they can accomplish that without a double-digit sack guy. It just shows how creative Todd Bowles really is when he has the pieces that he wants to utilize in his system. And it shows how dangerous any one of those 11 guys on the field can be at any given moment. But I guess my follow-up to that would be, if no one's getting double-digit sacks, I'm assuming you would put Yaya probably at what, 9?
Ish, yeah, like 8.5, 9.
Okay, so then my next question would be, who's going to be that player in the second half of the season that kind of emerges as the other main sack guy next to Yaya? Because obviously, if no one has double digits, it is a collective, but who's going to be that other main component that emerges in the second half of the year?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're talking about Levante David having a couple of more, Vita Vea having a couple of more. Somebody who I think who will sneakily be up there right behind Yaya is Servassier Dennis.
Ooh.
I think so. I'll make that my bold prediction. We'll throw another one out there. Why not? I love what Servassier Dennis can do as a blitzer. I think he's got more juice in the tank as a blitzer. And it kind of reminds me of what Devin White was able to do in 2020. And maybe you don't have to blitz Levante as much, but it reminds me of what Devin White was able to do in that Super Bowl winning team, as he's kind of the pseudo blitzer. And maybe by blitzing him more, you take him out of coverage and you have somebody else, do some of those duties, especially against running backs. And maybe that could be your changeup. But just looking at the numbers and the success that he has blitzing, I really think that Todd Bowles can start dialing it up a little bit more with Servassier and send him. So yeah, I'll go with him as my sneaky. He's at 2 right now. So I think Servassier can get to 5, 6, 7, like 5 to 7 in that range. 6, 7. Yeah, in that range. Yeah. I didn't even mean to go there, but you caught it.
I had to. I have 2 teenagers.
I know. And all of them should be punished, by the way, for doing it.
It's harmless. It's funny.
Sorry.
There's so many worse things that they could be saying or referencing.
After a couple more weeks of it, you'll reconsider the punishments.
Yeah, I don't know. I did way worse as a kid. All right. So we went from the 2-fold to the trifold on that last prediction. We got one more in the tank. What is your final bold prediction for the rest of the season for the Bucs?
Final one, that heading into Thursday Night Football, primetime, Week 15, they will have a chance to clinch the division.
Love that.
Carolina's got a tough, everyone talks about the tough schedule that the Buccaneers have right here for 3 games. Carolina, first off, it does suck for Buccaneers fans out there that they upset the Packers, because that was a penciled loss for the team, right? I mean, you'd be sitting real pretty without that. But I think they're phonies. No disrespect to Dave Canales and what he's done there. They're building something. They're just still in the building process. In terms of 2025, I think they're phonies. They got to play New Orleans and Atlanta. Atlanta is going to be ticked off considering they laid the biggest egg against them in Carolina, losing 30-0. They also play New Orleans, and I know everybody is counting New Orleans out, but divisional games, they are tough. And also New Orleans got blown out, and they're, Carolina's going to go back home fat and happy after that win in Lambeau. So you got 2 divisional games, then you got to go out to San Francisco and then home to the Rams. Like, I can see the Panthers going 1-3 there, and then they have a bye week, and then they got at New Orleans. So, you factor in if the Buccaneers take care of their job and the Falcons continue to move kind of in neutral, I think there's a chance that before the Panthers even play the Buccaneers, they can clinch it. Obviously, the safer prediction is saying that the clinching scenario would come week 16 when the Bucs play the Panthers, but I'm going to, I don't know if that's bold enough. So screw it. There's a chance. There is a chance after week 15, if they win, there will be a playoff scenario put out that the Buccaneers can clinch their spot. So that's my other bold.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Evan, I love every one of those. Hopefully they all come to fruition, with the exception of no double-digit sack guys, because then that makes me look smarter by calling the Yaya Diaby one. But we are back to talking about an actual game as the Bucs prepare to take on the New England Patriots. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or review every single day. Evan, I am going to disagree with you about one thing, and that is I think that the Panthers beating the Packers was actually a good thing for the Buccaneers, because I don't think the Panthers can actually, you just kind of laid it out. I don't think the Panthers can catch the Bucs for the division, and that loss by the Packers actually moved the Bucs up to the 2 seed in the NFC. I think it was a net positive. Maybe I'll end up eating my words on that one, but I texted it out to the insiders, because a couple of them had messaged me and said, can you believe the Panthers just won that game? And I was like, you know what? Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Because that helped the Bucs overall. But we do have a game to talk about. And it's an important one. I know you feel the same way I do. The next 3 games, the most important one is the Rams game, but you'd like to see the Bucs get off on a positive note coming out of the bye. Not something Todd Bowles is known for in his coaching tenure, is winning after the bye week. But the Patriots have certainly surprised a lot of people. Drake May is among the favorites for NFL MVP this season. Vrabel has those guys playing extremely well, to the point that they're actually ahead of the Buffalo Bills right now in the AFC East. So how does this Bucs team that, again, under Bowles historically is not great coming off of a bye, get a huge win at home to start the second half of their season?
I also want to say this. Vrabel makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly the Patriots, it's going to be hard to imagine they don't make the playoffs. But especially given their schedule. But let's talk about their schedule. These are the teams that they have played: the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Bills, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons. Currently, you have the Bills and I think the Steelers as the only playoff teams in that clump. So 9 games, 7 of them against, for all intents and purposes, nobodies.
I mean, that sounded like a list of juggernauts to me.
Yeah. So when evaluating the Patriots, we still really don't know who they are. And to be honest, I don't know if we'll ever truly know what this team is. So they'll end up being what they are. But their schedule is the easiest in the league. They have a couple of toughies coming up, but there's still a fairly easy path for them. So let me preface it with first being the Patriots are a little bit of the phony card just from the public perception. They're better in the public's eyes than I think numbers wise and when you value strength of schedule, what they really are. What you have here is a matchup between two very good rushing defenses. The Patriots are better yards per rush against than the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are pretty darn good with that as well. So both of these teams, you are not going to win via the ground. You're going to have to throw the ball. The Buccaneers are healthier on that side of the ball. We are seeing them when at least they have Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, and or Benjamin Morrison. When they have two of those three, they can really run their defense, and it's tough to move the ball down the field on them in large chunks. You can still dink and doink against Todd Bowles, but ultimately, it's going to be one of those running backs out of the backfield getting an explosive. There will be a couple of those happening, but for the most part, the Patriots are going to have to get down the field more methodically. And Drake May, while he'll be able to scramble against the Bucs because typically teams can, and he should be able to find the tight end, even though the Bucs are improved this year. That's typically a weak spot for the team. And Travion Henderson out of the backfield should be able to do some things as a pass catcher. But Drake May has eaten 34 sacks already this year. And you're going up against a guy like Todd Bowles, who is going to confuse the heck out of you, man. So I think you have a great opportunity, even if you're giving up yards down the field, to create negatives, to create negative plays, to throw the Patriots off of their rhythm. And one of the other advantages the Patriots have in this matchup is they're pretty good on third down conversions. Their third down percentage, I think it's top 15. Their conversion percentage, where the Buccaneers are terrible this year. Josh Grizzard, I don't know what's going on with that. The last couple of games have been just atrocious. So I would be shocked if that wasn't a huge point of emphasis during the bye week. So ultimately, that's kind of where I see this matchup. And the final point I have, just when thinking about this one, the Patriots have to play on Thursday Night Football after this game. And they got to play against the Jets. And what did you just mention at the top of this? The Patriots are currently the winners in the division ahead of the Bills. Playing a non-conference foe and then playing a divisional foe, albeit the Jets, but it doesn't matter, right? The Buccaneers just played the Saints. They roll over them. Offensively, they look terrible in that game. The score is closer than what it probably was just because the defense was so dominant. But you have to take those division games seriously, especially for a team like the Jets. Doesn't have anything to play for, but will be in prime time and will get up for those matchups. So if I had to bet, I would assume that the Patriots are going to have to do a little bit of parallel planning, which is what most teams have to do anyway to get ahead of those Thursday night games. But they're going to have a little bit of an eye on Thursday. The Bucs are not. The Bucs, you have a team that has a Thursday night football game coming up So they got to worry about a short rest. And you have a team that's coming off of a bye and doesn't have, they have the Bills coming up next week, but they don't have a divisional foe. They don't have a conference foe coming up next. Like maybe next, if they can get this win against the Patriots, maybe you're worried about the Bills being a whatever game. Like I understand it's big in the public's eyes, but the Rams game the following week is much bigger. So to me, I think this is a smash spot for the Buccaneers. I love the Buccaneers in this game. I think the schedule setup is perfect. I think that the Patriots are not going to be fully prepared for this game. I think this is one of the tougher opponents they've faced all year, whereas the Buccaneers, this is not one of the toughest opponents they have to face. I mean, as far as passing offenses, yards per pass attempt, the Patriots have played one team in the top 10, so 1 through 9. They played one team, and that's the Falcons last week. And if you watch that game, the second half, the Patriots did nothing. The first half, they were able to do some stuff. The second half, the Falcons really shut them down defensively. The Buccaneers have played 7, which are the Falcons, 2, 6, and 9 this year, 4 of them. The Patriots are 25th in that category. That is the second to worst that they're going to face, right below the Saints. And yes, they were terrible against the Saints, but it was them beaten up. It was a divisional game, and they were just pooped out. They were pooped out in Detroit. They were pooped out in New Orleans. I'm going to hope that the bye week is going to make them look like the team we saw the first 5 weeks when they were popping 20 points per game easily versus, whatever we've seen, or I should say the first 6 games versus whatever we saw the last 2. So don't get caught up in the recency bias. So, yeah, I mean, it's I typically like to be more calculated and a little bit more like temper your expectations, but I'm all over the Bucs this week. And it's good from a spot standpoint. And I just think talent-wise, I think they can get to Drake May enough here. They'll have their successful plays, don't get me wrong, but I think they'll be able to create enough negatives that that they'll be able to generate some really positive momentum in this contest.
And the last thing that I'll add real quick, and I'm going to continue to say it because it continues to be true, and I'll say it until it's not. When the Bucs face a team that has an offensive teammate of Emeka Egbuka's, they're undefeated. He gets Travion Henderson this week. I only get to say it one more time this season that I can think of off the top of my head, and that's the Cardinals. So, Bucs, I'm going to need you to keep this running gag going here because
unless you count the Saints again, we got to play them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that. So I'll get to say it 2 more times, but only one more new team that they'll face this year. Because, I can't think of any offensive teammates that he had with the Dolphins or the Panthers.
Well, I think if you get into the weeds, I don't know about that. Like the Panthers have, Lathan Ransom. The Panthers. So, I mean, they're like.
But I said offensive team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
So, all right. Well, Evan is going to break that crystal ball back out for the second time in this show. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites to win the NBA Finals at plus 200, followed by the Denver Nuggets at plus 650, the Cleveland Cavaliers at plus 700, and then the New York Knicks at plus 1200. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. And all right, Evan, you got the crystal ball back out. Let's see what kind of ideas he gives you as to what is going to happen on Sunday. Let's start things off with, might as well start with the bold prediction. You've already given 3. What's one more, a little more game specific this time around?
Bold prediction. I mentioned how badly the Bucs have been on third downs. I think they're like high 30% this season. So I think that Josh Grizzard, he hit the tape. He worked his butt off in the bye week. Said there's things to be fixed. And by the way, the Patriots are, I believe, they're certainly a top 15, but I think they're a top 10 team in third down conversion success rate from the defense. Regardless, I'm going to say that the Bucs will be 50% or higher on third downs Sunday.
Okay. And, this kind of falls into the same category as a lot of the criticisms that I've seen from fans about Grizzard and the play calling. And I keep going back, and some people call it an excuse. I say, explain to me the difference between a reason and an excuse, because to me, it's probably a really big reason. He's not running the offense that he was supposed to run. He does not have his full allotment of pieces and players. So having to adapt on the fly has obviously affected what they've been able to do as a whole on offense, but especially on third downs, where he was the third down guy last year. We saw how successful they were. I can't imagine what would be much different this year, other than the fact that you have no Gedeke, you have no Mauk, you have no Bucky, you have no Godwin, you have no Evans, you have no McMillan. And that obviously is going to play a huge, huge role. So I think as they start to get some of these pieces back, you're going to start to see the third down conversion rate reflect, the pieces that they're regaining there on offense. I just kind of think the Grizz he hasn't exactly gotten a real fair shake so far this year, because this wasn't the team that they were supposed to have and that they planned on.
And I know that everybody's going to point also to Liam Cohen last year, but when you look at Liam Cohen without, there was a dip in production by nearly a touchdown when they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They made it work as a team. They were kind of hot at the same time, and they figured it out. And the run game was so successful, but it wasn't perfect. And in the end, right, they didn't even make it out of the first round last year.
Right. So I say to those that are doubting Grizz or already calling for his head or whatever, just be patient. Wait and see what happens as they start to get these key players back, because this offense is going to be real interesting.
And you also got to remind yourself, it's really been 2 horrific games. And and yes, he deserves to be criticized for those 2 games, but don't allow the recency bias to have you forget about the 6 games prior. And I know not all those 6 were perfect. Certainly the Atlanta game, the season opener, wasn't great, but we learned that Atlanta's a really good defense. They don't win within the margins. There's a lot of things wrong with Atlanta that has nothing to do with their football team, on the field. So, patience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even with all of the pieces missing, they've scored below 20 points once all year. So they're going to be just fine. All right, Evan, who are you calling as your predictive player of the game?
Predictive player of the game, Cade Otton. Coming out of the break, let's cook with Cade. The Patriots this season have given up 52 receptions and 572 yards to the tight end position. They're vulnerable there. And considering what the Bucs kind of have with their receiving options, feel like Cade Otton, who has emerged as a legitimate receiver the last couple of games, it looks like he can continue to be a thing coming out of the bye week. So give me Cade Otton for a really good game against the Patriots. He's due to find the end zone also. So, I think we're going to see Cade with a tutty and maybe 70 yards, something like that.
Did you see the guy that put together a parlay, bet $15 on it?
Yeah, and it was Cade
Otton $1 million, and he
Cade Otton just 1 yard away.
Oh, that's enough to just make you want to give up entirely. But yeah, I love Otton in this game. Every day is National Tight Ends Day when you have K-Dot. And you said you're all in on the Bucs this week. You're all over them. I imagine you're going to predict a pretty convincing win, but what do you have for the score in this one?
Yeah, I got them winning. I got them covering 28-17. Let's ride.
Love that.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
No Broncos country.
Dangerous.
But I will enjoy the emergence of Pat Bryant over the course of the last couple of weeks. All right, Evan, what do we have going on over at 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app?
Yeah, the Blitz is back now that we're coming out of the bye week. We do resume normal activities, so we'll be back Sunday, 8:30 on 10 Tampa Bay. Luckily, if you have YouTube TV, you can watch that in the morning. Also, you have the Blitz, 10 Tampa Bay Plus. You can watch that anytime you want, starting Friday night. Typically goes up later Friday night, but it'll be up there. You can also find that on our YouTube page. We also have the Ultimate Florida Sports Show, which airs on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. You can find our sportscast there as well.
All right, make sure you are checking all of that out. Can't wait to get the Blitz back up and going. Please make sure that you are following on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eCloskey WTSP. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow on Instagram, TikTok at Locked On Bucs at both of those places. Become an insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. You want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider. It's real simple. Like this episode on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.